Lily Harper stood frozen in her doorway, staring at the man who had just arrived. She'd hired an escort online, someone polished enough to play the role of boyfriend at her company gala, someone who could make her ex-boyfriend choke on his own smugness for one night. What she hadn't expected was this: a man in a perfectly tailored suit who moved like he owned every room he'd ever entered, whose eyes held the kind of quiet calculation that made her pulse stutter. He introduced himself as Noah, extended his hand with unsettling confidence, and smiled like he already knew every lie she'd ever told herself. This wasn't what she'd paid for. This was something else entirely, and she had no idea she'd just opened her door to a man who could dismantle her entire world with a single conversation. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this really started, and I promise, if you stick with me until the end, you'll see exactly how far one desperate decision can take you. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The email arrived at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and Lily Harper read it 3 times before she finally let herself feel the full weight of the humiliation. Just a reminder that +1s are encouraged for Saturday's gala. Looking forward to seeing everyone there with their significant others. Marcus Ventry, VP of Strategic Development. Marcus, her ex-boyfriend. The man who dumped her 6 months ago because she was too focused on work and not ambitious enough in the right ways, which was rich coming from someone who'd spent their entire relationship taking credit for her ideas in meetings. He'd moved on approximately 4 days after their breakup, publicly, loudly, with a woman from the marketing department who laughed at all his jokes and wore heels so high, Lily wondered how she made it through a full workday. Lily deleted the email, then immediately regretted it and dug it out of her trash folder. She read it again. The phrase significant others felt like a personal attack, which was ridiculous because Marcus Ventry didn't think about her enough to personally attack her. That was almost worse. She closed her laptop harder than necessary. The apartment was quiet. It was always quiet. Lily lived alone in a 1-bedroom in a building where the heat worked intermittently and the neighbors fought in Russian every Tuesday. She'd moved here after the breakup because it was all she could afford on her salary, which was solid but unspectacular, the kind of salary that came with the title senior analyst, and absolutely no power to change anything. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine she didn't really want, and stared at her phone. The gala was in 2 days. She could skip it. She could claim she was sick, send her regrets, avoid the entire humiliating circus of watching Marcus parade around with his new girlfriend while she stood alone by the shrimp cocktail table, smiling tightly and pretending she didn't care. But she did care. She cared that he'd taken her best strategic ideas and presented them as his own. She cared that he'd convinced their boss she was solid but not leadership material. She cared that everyone at the company seemed to think she was boring, forgettable, the kind of person who did good work and then disappeared into the walls. She picked up her phone. She wasn't going to skip the gala. She was going to show up looking like she'd moved on, like she was thriving, like she'd never spent a single night crying over Marcus Ventry's selfish, credit-stealing ass. But she couldn't do it alone. Her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. She opened a browser, typed in the search bar, hesitated for only a second, and then hit enter. Professional escort services near me. The results were immediate and somehow worse than she'd expected. A chaotic mix of obviously shady websites, polished agencies that screamed, out of your budget, and forums full of people arguing about which services were legitimate. Lily scrolled through with mounting horror, questioning every decision that had led her to this moment. Then she found it. The website was clean, almost too clean. Minimalist design, professional photos, a short paragraph of copy that promised discreet professional companionship for corporate events, galas, and social functions. There was a contact form and a price list that made her wince but didn't seem completely insane. She filled out the form before she could talk herself out of it. Event type: corporate gala. Date: Saturday. Time: 7 p.m. to midnight. Special requests: must be confident, well-dressed, comfortable in high-pressure social settings. Ideally, someone who can hold a conversation with executives without sounding like an idiot. She paused, then added, also, my ex-boyfriend will be there, and I need him to regret every single choice he's ever made. She hit submit. The response came in less than an hour. Thank you for your inquiry. We've reviewed your request and believe we have an excellent match for your needs. His name is Noah, and he'll arrive at your address at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. Payment details are attached. Looking forward to working with you." Lily stared at the email, her stomach twisting into a knot of equal parts relief and dread. She'd actually done it. She'd hired a stranger to pretend to be her boyfriend. This was either going to be the smartest move she'd ever made or the most embarrassing disaster of her life. Possibly both. Dimanche. Saturday arrived with the kind of anxious energy that made Lily clean her entire apartment twice and try on 4 different dresses before settling on the first one. It was simple, elegant, black, the kind of dress that said, "I'm not trying too hard," which of course meant she was trying extremely hard. By 6:15, she was pacing. By 6:25, she was regretting everything. By 6:30, there was a knock at her door. Lily froze. For a brief, wild moment, she considered not answering. She could hide in her bathroom, pretend she wasn't home, let this whole ridiculous plan collapse before it even started. Then she thought about Marcus's smug face, and she opened the door. The man standing in her hallway was not what she'd expected. He was tall, taller than she'd anticipated, with dark hair that looked like it had been cut by someone who charged too much, and a suit that fit him the way suits fit people in magazines. But it wasn't the clothes that made her stomach drop. It was the way he looked at her, calm, assessing, like he was reading a report and finding it mildly interesting. "Lily Harper?" he said. His voice was low, steady, the kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command attention. "Yes," she managed. "I'm Noah." He extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and lasted exactly the appropriate amount of time. Everything about him was controlled, deliberate, like he'd calculated the precise amount of friendliness required for this interaction. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. Noah walked into her apartment with the kind of easy confidence that made her suddenly aware of how small the space was, how the paint was peeling near the window, how her furniture was a mismatched collection of things she'd bought on sale. If he noticed, he didn't show it. "So," he said, turning to face her, "corporate gala, ex-boyfriend, high-pressure social setting." He said it like he was reading from a checklist. "Anything else I should know?" Lily blinked. "You read my form." "I read everything." He glanced around the room, his gaze landing briefly on the framed photo of her and her sister on the bookshelf, then moving on. "What's his name?" "Marcus. Marcus Ventry." "What does he do?" "VP of Strategic Development. He's—" She hesitated. "He's good at making himself look important." Noah's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Got it. I just need him to see that I've moved on," Lily said quickly, "that I'm doing fine. Better than fine. I need him to think I'm with someone who's—" She gestured vaguely at Noah. "Someone like you." "Someone like me," Noah repeated, his tone unreadable. "You know what I mean." "I do." He adjusted his cufflinks, a small, precise movement. "What's your role at the company?" "Senior analyst. I work in strategic forecasting." "So you predict trends?" "Essentially." "And Marcus takes credit for your work." Lily froze. "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." Noah's eyes met hers, sharp and assessing. "He's a VP who's good at looking important, and you're the analyst who actually does the work. It's a common dynamic." She didn't know what to say to that. Noah checked his watch. "We should leave in 10 minutes. Do you have the details for the venue?" "Yes, it's at the Carlisle Hotel, downtown." "Good." He looked at her again, this time with something that might have been approval. "You look fine, by the way. The dress works." "Thanks," she said, surprised by how much the compliment steadied her. "One more thing." Noah's voice dropped slightly, taking on a different quality, something almost gentle. "When we get there, let me lead. Don't second-guess yourself, don't apologize, and don't look at Marcus unless I'm standing next to you. Understood?" Lily nodded. "Good." He smiled then, a real smile, and it changed his entire face. "Let's go make your ex-boyfriend miserable." The Carlisle Hotel was exactly the kind of place that made Lily feel underdressed no matter what she was wearing. The lobby gleamed with marble and gold fixtures, and a string quartet played softly near the elevators. Lily's heels clicked against the floor as she and Noah crossed toward the ballroom, and she resisted the urge to grab his arm for balance. Noah, of course, walked like he'd been here 100 times. Relax, he said quietly, without looking at her. You're doing fine. I haven't done anything yet. Exactly, you're not overthinking it. He glanced at her, his expression unreadable. That's half the battle. They reached the entrance to the ballroom, where a young woman with a tablet checked their names and waved them through. The space was massive, filled with round tables draped in white linen, chandeliers that looked like they cost more than Lily's car, and at least 200 people in formal wear milling around with champagne flutes. Lily scanned the room, her pulse picking up. There, she said, nodding toward the far corner. Marcus Ventry stood near the bar, laughing loudly at something a man in a gray suit had said. His girlfriend, tall, blonde, wearing a red dress that probably violated several workplace guidelines, stood beside him, one hand resting possessively on his arm. Noah followed her gaze. That's him. That's him. Noah studied Marcus for a long moment, his expression neutral. Then he turned to Lily, and something shifted in his demeanor, something subtle but unmistakable. He reached for her hand, his fingers curling around hers with easy familiarity. Stay close, he said. They moved into the crowd. Lily had expected Noah to be good at this. She'd paid him to be good at this, but she hadn't expected him to be this good. He navigated the room like he'd memorized the layout in advance, stopping to greet people with the kind of warm, effortless charm that made them smile before they'd even registered who he was. He introduced Lily as my partner, with a casual confidence that made it sound like the most natural thing in the world. And within 10 minutes, she'd been pulled into 3 separate conversations with senior executives she'd only ever seen from a distance. Lily's the one who predicted the downturn in Q3, Noah said smoothly, addressing a woman Lily recognized as the CFO. Saved the company a significant amount of money. The CFO raised her eyebrows. Is that right? It is, Noah said before Lily could downplay it. She's brilliant at pattern recognition. Underutilized, in my opinion, but brilliant. Lily felt her face heat. She's also modest, Noah continued, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back, which is rare in this industry. The CFO smiled. Well, we should talk sometime, Lily. I'd love to hear more about your work. I'd like that, Lily managed. As they moved away, Lily leaned closer to Noah. You didn't have to do that. Do what? Talk me up like that. I didn't ask you to. You hired me to make you look good, Noah said simply. That's what I'm doing. But you made it sound... She hesitated. You made it sound real. Noah glanced at her, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. Maybe it is. Before she could respond, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Lily? She turned. Marcus Ventry stood 3 feet away, his expression a mix of surprise and something else, something that looked uncomfortably like condescension. His girlfriend hovered behind him, looking bored. Marcus, Lily said, her voice steadier than she felt. Hi, I didn't expect to see you here. Marcus's gaze flicked to Noah, then back to Lily. You came alone? No, Noah said, before Lily could answer. He extended his hand. Noah Carter. I'm with Lily. Marcus shook his hand, his smile tightening. Marcus Ventry. I work with Lily. VP of Strategic Development, Noah said. I've heard. There was a pause. And what do you do, Noah? Marcus asked, his tone just polite enough to avoid outright rudeness. Noah smiled. I'm in finance. Finance, Marcus repeated. Interesting. What firm? I run my own, Noah said easily. Small operation. We focus on high-value investments. Marcus's expression shifted, still polite, but with an edge of skepticism. Really? And how did you two meet? Through a friend, Lily said quickly. We kept running into each other, Noah added, his hand finding Lily's again. Eventually, I stopped pretending it was a coincidence. Marcus's smile looked painted on. Well, good for you, Lily. Thanks, Lily said. There was another beat of silence, awkward and thick. Then Marcus's girlfriend tugged on his arm. Babe, they're starting the speeches. Right. Marcus nodded at them. Good to see you, Lily. Enjoy the evening. He walked away. Lily exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. You did well, Noah said quietly. I barely said anything. Exactly. He steered her toward the bar. You didn't give him anything to use against you. That's the key. Lily looked at him. You're really good at this. At what? All of it. Talking to people. Making me look… She gestured helplessly. Making me look like I belong here. Noah's expression softened slightly. You do belong here. You don't know that. I've been watching you all night, he said. You're smarter than half the people in this room, and you don't even realize it. Lily didn't know what to say to that. Noah ordered them drinks. Whiskey for himself, wine for her, and they moved to the edge of the ballroom, near one of the tall windows overlooking the city. The lights glittered below, and for a moment Lily let herself breathe. Thank you, she said. Noah glanced at her. For what? For this. For… She gestured vaguely. For making tonight bearable. You're paying me, Noah pointed out. Still, he studied her for a moment, something shifting in his expression. Then he looked away, out at the city. You shouldn't let people like Marcus make you feel small. Easier said than done. I know. His voice was quieter now, almost distant. But you're better than that. Lily looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time all night, she wondered who Noah Carter actually was. Because this didn't feel like an act. This felt like something else. Something real. Something raw. Before she could ask, a voice crackled over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could take your seats, we'll be starting the program shortly. Noah set down his glass. Ready? Lily nodded. They found their table near the center of the room, and Lily was relieved to see that Marcus was seated on the opposite side, far enough away that she wouldn't have to make eye contact. Noah pulled out her chair, a small gesture that felt absurdly chivalrous, and sat down beside her. The speeches started. Lily tried to focus, but her mind kept drifting to Noah's hand on her back, to the way he'd spoken about her to the CFO, to the quiet confidence in his voice when he'd told her she belonged here. She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye. He was listening to the CEO's speech with polite attention, his posture relaxed, his expression unreadable. He looked like he belonged here. More than that, he looked like he owned the room. And that was when the doubt crept in, because Lily had hired an escort, a professional, someone whose job was to show up, play a role, and disappear. But Noah didn't feel like someone playing a role. He felt like someone who'd done this before, someone who knew how to navigate rooms like this, how to read people, how to command respect without saying much at all. Who was he? The thought lodged itself in her mind, stubborn and unyielding. The speeches ended and the lights dimmed as dinner was served. Lily picked at her food, her appetite gone. Noah noticed. You okay? He asked quietly. Yeah, she lied. He didn't push. Halfway through the meal, Marcus stood up and made his way to their table. Lily's stomach dropped. Lily, Marcus said, his tone friendly but sharp around the edges. Can I borrow you for a second? I don't think, she started. It'll just take a minute, Marcus interrupted, already moving toward the hallway outside the ballroom. Lily glanced at Noah. He was watching Marcus with the kind of cold, assessing look that made her pulse stutter. I'll be right back, she said. I'll be here, Noah replied. She followed Marcus into the hallway, her heels clicking against the marble. He stopped near a tall window, turning to face her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. So, he said. Noah. What about him? He's interesting. Thanks? Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. Come on, Lily. You show up to the gala with some guy no one's ever heard of, and he's supposedly running his own finance firm? It's a little convenient, don't you think? Lily's jaw tightened. What are you implying? I'm just saying it feels a little, performative. Marcus leaned against the wall, his expression smug. Like you're trying to prove something. I'm not trying to prove anything. Really? Because it looks like you hired someone to make me jealous. The words hit like a slap. Lily stared at him, anger flaring hot and sudden in her chest. You think I hired him? Didn't you? She wanted to deny it. She wanted to lie, to throw his accusation back in his face and walk away with her dignity intact. But the truth stuck in her throat, because she had hired Noah. And Marcus, smug, selfish Marcus, had figured it out. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice shaking. Sure you don't. Marcus pushed off the wall. Look, it's fine. I get it. You're embarrassed. You wanted to look like you'd moved on. But Lily, come on, no one's buying it. Go to hell, Marcus! She turned and walked back into the ballroom, her hands trembling. Noah was standing near their table, waiting. The moment he saw her face, his expression darkened. What did he say? Noah asked. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Lily, I'm fine. She wasn't fine. She was furious and humiliated and desperately trying not to cry. Can we leave? Noah studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Let's go. They left the ballroom, weaving through the crowd toward the exit. Lily kept her head down, willing herself to hold it together until they were outside. They made it to the lobby before Noah stopped. Wait here, he said. What? Why? But he was already walking back toward the ballroom. Lily stood there frozen as Noah disappeared into the crowd. She had no idea what he was doing, but she didn't have the energy to follow him. 2 minutes later, he returned. What did you do? Lily asked. Nothing, Noah said, but there was something in his voice, something cold, deliberate. Noah, let's get you home. They walked to the valet in silence. Lily's mind raced, replaying Marcus's words over and over. No one's buying it. He was right. Of course he was right. She'd hired Noah, and it had been obvious, and now everyone probably knew. The valet brought Noah's car around, a sleek black sedan that looked far too expensive for someone running a small operation. Noah opened the passenger door for her. Lily slid into the seat, numb. They drove in silence. It wasn't until they were halfway to her apartment that Noah finally spoke. He's wrong, you know. Lily looked at him. What? Marcus. He's wrong. Noah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You didn't need me tonight. You could have walked into that gala alone and held your own. You're smarter than him, sharper than him, and everyone in that room knows it. The only reason he tried to tear you down is because he's threatened by you. Lily's throat tightened. He figured it out. He knows I hired you. So what? So he's going to tell everyone. He's not going to do anything, Noah said, his voice hard. Because if he does, he'll look like the petty, insecure jackass he is. And deep down, he knows it. Lily stared at him. You sound pretty sure about that. I am. They pulled up in front of her building. Noah put the car in park and turned to face her. Listen to me. Whatever Marcus thinks, whatever he says, it doesn't matter. You showed up tonight. You held your ground. That's what counts. Lily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. I just wanted to prove I was okay. You are okay, Noah said quietly. You're better than okay. She looked at him, really looked at him, and something shifted. The walls he'd kept so carefully in place all night seemed to crack, just slightly, and for the first time she saw the man underneath. Who are you? She asked. Noah's expression flickered. What do you mean? You're not just some... She gestured helplessly. You're not just someone who shows up to events for money. You move like you own every room you walk into. You talk to executives like you're one of them. Who are you, really? There was a long pause. It doesn't matter, Noah said finally. It does to me. He looked away, his jaw tight. I used to be someone else. Someone who lived in rooms like that. But that was a long time ago. Why did you stop? Noah didn't answer. Lily reached for the door handle, her chest aching. Thank you for tonight. Lily, I mean it. You didn't have to do all that, but you did. So, thank you. She stepped out of the car before he could say anything else. As she walked toward her building, she heard the car door open behind her. Lily, she turned. Noah stood beside the car, his expression conflicted. For what it's worth, tonight wasn't fake. Not for me. The words hung in the air between them. Then he got back in the car and drove away, leaving Lily standing alone on the sidewalk, her heart pounding and her mind spinning with questions she didn't know how to answer. Lily didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying Noah's final words over and over until they lost all meaning and then found it again. Tonight wasn't fake. Not for me. What did that even mean? He was a hired escort. She'd paid him. The entire evening had been a transaction, carefully orchestrated and executed. Yet something about the way he'd looked at her when he said it, like the admission had cost him something, made her chest ache in a way she couldn't explain. By Monday morning, she'd convinced herself it didn't matter. Noah had done his job. She'd survived the gala without completely humiliating herself. Marcus had made his accusations, but no one else had seemed to notice or care. It was over. She could move on. Except when she walked into the office, everything felt different. The usual morning chaos filled the open floor plan. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking, the coffee machine hissing in the break room. Lily kept her head down as she made her way to her desk, but she could feel eyes on her. Subtle glances. Whispered conversations that stopped when she got too close. She dropped her bag beside her chair and logged into her computer, trying to ignore the gnawing anxiety in her stomach. Lily. She looked up. Jennifer Chen from accounting stood beside her desk, holding a coffee cup and wearing an expression that was equal parts curious and impressed. Hey, Lily said carefully. So, Jennifer said, lowering her voice. Saturday night. Lily's stomach dropped. What about it? I heard you showed up to the gala with some mystery guy who had half the executives eating out of his hand. Jennifer leaned in. Who is he? Just someone I'm seeing. Someone you're seeing, Jennifer repeated, clearly not buying it. Lily, I've worked here for 6 years, and I've never seen you bring anyone to a company event. Now you show up with a guy who apparently told the CFO you're underutilized. People are talking. People need hobbies, Lily muttered. Jennifer laughed. Fair enough. But seriously, good for you. Marcus looked like someone had shoved a lemon down his throat. Despite everything, Lily felt a small smile tug at her lips. Did he? Oh yeah, he spent the whole night trying to figure out who your date was. It was kind of hilarious. Jennifer straightened. Anyway, I just wanted to say congrats. You deserve someone who actually appreciates you. She walked away before Lily could respond. Lily sat there, staring at her computer screen without seeing it. People were talking. Of course they were talking. She'd shown up with a man who'd commanded attention without even trying, who'd made her look competent and valued in front of people who usually barely noticed her existence. It would have been strange if people weren't talking. The question was, what were they saying? She found out an hour later when Marcus appeared at her desk. He looked the same as always, expensive suit, carefully styled hair, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. But there was something tight around his mouth, something that suggested he hadn't slept well either. Morning, Lily, he said. Marcus? She didn't look up from her screen. Got a minute? Not really. It'll be quick. He didn't wait for permission, just pulled up a chair from an empty desk and sat down. I wanted to apologize for Saturday night. I was out of line. Lily finally looked at him. You think? I do. I made some assumptions that weren't fair. He paused, watching her carefully. I was wrong. She waited. I talked to a few people after you left, Marcus continued. Asked around about your friend Noah. Turns out he's actually pretty well connected in the finance world. Someone mentioned he used to run a major investment firm before he stepped back a few years ago. Carter Holdings, I think it was called. Lily's heart stopped. Carter Holdings. She'd heard that name before. It had been in the news years ago, a boutique investment firm known for aggressive, high-stakes deals, and a founder who disappeared from the public eye after some kind of personal tragedy. She'd never paid much attention to the details, but the name had stuck. Noah Carter. So, Marcus said, his smile sharpening, guess he's the real deal after all. My mistake. Lily forced herself to keep her expression neutral. Is that all? Actually, no. Marcus leaned forward slightly. I also wanted to give you a heads up. There's a leadership meeting this afternoon. The CFO wants to discuss some strategic initiatives for next quarter, and your name came up. My name? Apparently she was impressed by something your date said about your forecasting work. She wants you to present your Q3 analysis to the executive team. He stood, still smiling that cold, empty smile. Thought you'd want to know. He walked away. Lily sat frozen at her desk, her mind racing. Noah had told the CFO she was underutilized. He'd praised her work in front of people who actually had the power to change things. And now she was being pulled into a leadership meeting, something that had never happened in her entire tenure at the company. But that wasn't what made her hands shake. Carter Holdings. Noah wasn't just some guy who did escort work on the side. He was a former billionaire, someone who'd built an empire and then walked away from it. And she'd hired him like he was nothing. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 3 full seconds before opening the message. Heard you have a meeting this afternoon. You'll do fine. Don't let them intimidate you. N. Lily's breath caught. How did he know? She typed back quickly. How did you get this number? The response came almost immediately. You put it on the intake form. Right, she had. And how do you know about the meeting? A longer pause this time. I have my sources. Good luck, Lily. She stared at the message, a dozen questions fighting for space in her head. But before she could type any of them, another message arrived. Also, for the record, I meant what I said Saturday night. Lily set her phone down and pressed her palms against her eyes. This was insane. All of it. She'd hired a stranger to play her boyfriend for one night, and somehow that had spiraled into executive meetings and cryptic text messages and a knot of confusion in her chest that wouldn't untangle. She needed to focus. The meeting was in 4 hours. She had to pull together a presentation, review her data, and figure out how to talk to a room full of executives without sounding like she was terrified, which she absolutely was. She opened her files and got to work. The conference room on the 12th floor was the kind of space designed to make people nervous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the long glass table reflected the overhead lights in a way that felt surgical. Lily sat near the middle, her laptop open in front of her, trying not to think about the fact that the CFO was sitting 3 feet away, and Marcus was directly across from her, watching with barely concealed resentment. All right, the CFO, Sandra Ortiz, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and sharper instincts, said, glancing around the table. Let's get started. Lily, I understand you have some insights on the Q3 forecast that might be relevant to our planning for next quarter. Lily swallowed. Yes, I've been tracking some patterns in consumer behavior that suggest a potential shift in spending priorities. If the trend continues, we'll need to adjust our approach to certain market segments. Show me, Sandra said. Lily pulled up her presentation. For the next 20 minutes, she walked through her analysis, charts showing declining engagement in traditional retail channels, data on emerging digital platforms, predictive models that suggested where the market was heading. She'd done this kind of work 100 times before, but never in front of people who actually had the authority to act on it. She expected interruptions, questions designed to poke holes in her methodology, the kind of professional skepticism that usually came with presenting to executives. What she didn't expect was for them to just listen. Sandra asked a few clarifying questions. The VP of marketing leaned forward, nodding along. Even Marcus stayed quiet, though his expression looked like he'd swallowed something sour. When she finished, there was a brief silence. Then Sandra said, "This is good work, Lily. Really good. Why haven't we been using this for quarterly planning?" Lily hesitated. "I've submitted reports before, but they got buried," Sandra finished, her gaze sliding to Marcus. "Let me guess. Someone decided they weren't a priority." Marcus shifted in his seat. "We have a process for vetting forecasts, which apparently doesn't include listening to your best analyst." Sandra turned back to Lily. "I want you to expand this. Full report, including recommendations for how we adjust our strategy. Can you have it ready by end of week?" "Yes," Lily said, her heart pounding. "Absolutely." "Good." Sandra closed her laptop. "And from now on, your forecasts come directly to my office. No intermediaries." The meeting ended. Lily gathered her things with shaking hands, trying to process what had just happened. She'd been invited to present her work to the executive team. The CFO had praised her in front of everyone. Marcus had been essentially told to step aside. This was the moment she'd been waiting for, the recognition she'd spent years trying to earn. And it had only happened because Noah Carter had walked into a gala and told the right person she was being wasted. She made it back to her desk before her phone buzzed again. How did it go? Lily stared at the message, then she typed, "We need to talk." The response was immediate. "I'm free tonight. Same coffee shop near your building. 6 p.m.? She hesitated, then, "Fine." The coffee shop was one of those aggressively trendy places with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. Lily arrived 10 minutes early and ordered something with too much foam, then sat at a corner table and waited. Noah walked in at exactly 6 o'clock. He looked different in daylight, or at least in the warm glow of the coffee shop's Edison bulbs. He wore jeans and a dark sweater, his hair slightly less perfect than it had been at the gala. He looked almost normal. Almost. He ordered coffee, black, and sat down across from her. "So," he said. Lily didn't waste time. "Carter Holdings." Noah's expression didn't change. "You looked me up. Marcus told me, after he figured out you were the real deal and not just—" She stopped herself. "Not just an escort," Noah finished calmly. "I didn't mean—" "It's fine. That's what you hired me for." He took a sip of his coffee. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." Lily leaned forward. "Who are you? Why were you working as an escort? Why did you help me?" Noah set down his cup. For a long moment he didn't say anything. Then, "I'm not an escort." Lily blinked. "What?" "I'm not. I never was." He met her eyes. "The agency you contacted, it's run by a friend of mine. She does event staffing, professional companions for corporate functions, legitimate work. But she also knows people who don't fit the usual mold, people who want to stay off the radar but are willing to help out for the right reasons. And you're one of those people." "I was." "Why?" Noah looked away, his jaw tight. "Because 6 years ago, I lost my wife in a car accident, and 3 months later, I became a single father to a 6-year-old daughter who didn't understand why her mother wasn't coming home." Lily's breath caught. "I was running Carter Holdings at the time," Noah continued, his voice flat. "Building deals, managing portfolios, spending 80 hours a week in boardrooms while my daughter was raised by nannies. When my wife died, I realized I'd spent years chasing success and barely knew my own kid. So I stepped back, sold most of my stake in the firm, moved to a smaller place, and focused on being her father." "But you still take these jobs," Lily said quietly. "Occasionally, when my friend calls and says someone needs help, and it sounds like something I can do without compromising my time with my daughter." He looked at her. "Your request came through and I read it, and I thought maybe I could help." "Why?" "Because you reminded me of someone." "Who?" "Me. Before I figured out what actually mattered." Noah leaned back in his chair. "You were so worried about proving yourself to people who didn't deserve your effort. I spent years doing the same thing. It almost destroyed me." Lily's throat tightened. "So Saturday night was me trying to give you a shortcut, show you that you didn't need to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for you." He paused. "I didn't expect to actually care about whether it worked. But you did." "Yeah." Noah's voice softened. "I did." They sat in silence. Lily's mind was spinning. Noah Carter wasn't just some stranger she'd hired for a night. He was a man who'd walked away from a fortune to raise his daughter, someone who understood exactly what it felt like to be undervalued and overlooked, someone who'd seen her struggling and decided to step in, not because he was paid to, but because he wanted to. "The meeting went well," she said finally. Noah's mouth quirked. "I heard. How do you keep hearing things?" "I still have connections. People talk." He studied her. "What did the CFO say?" "She wants me to expand my analysis, submit it directly to her office from now on." Lily shook her head. "This never would have happened if you hadn't said something at the gala." "Yes, it would have, eventually. You're good at what you do, Lily. People would have noticed." "They didn't notice for 6 years. Because you let someone like Marcus stand in your way." Noah's gaze sharpened. "That ends now. You have an opportunity. Don't waste it trying to make yourself smaller." Lily looked down at her coffee. "I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" "Be the person everyone suddenly thinks I am. Confident, capable, someone who belongs in executive meetings." "You already are that person," Noah said. "You just haven't been letting yourself act like it." She wanted to believe him. Part of her did. But another part, the part that had spent years being talked over in meetings, having her ideas dismissed, watching Marcus take credit for her work, couldn't quite accept that things had actually changed. "What if I screw it up?" she asked quietly. "Then you fix it." Noah's voice was firm. "But you won't." Because you're smarter than you think, and you care more than the people trying to compete with you. That's not a weakness. It's an advantage. Lily met his eyes. You sound very sure about that. I am. Why? Because I've spent my entire career reading people, and you... He paused, something shifting in his expression. You're not like the others. You actually give a damn. That matters. The words settled between them, heavy and significant. Lily's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and winced, her sister asking if she was still coming to dinner on Friday. She'd completely forgotten. I should go, she said, standing. Noah stood as well. Lily. She looked at him. If you need help with the report, or anything else, let me know. He pulled out his wallet, then hesitated. Actually, forget that. You don't need my help. You've got this. Noah? I mean it. You're going to be fine. He walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Lily standing there with her half-finished latte and a chest full of emotions she didn't know how to name. The rest of the week blurred together in a haze of spreadsheets, data analysis, and late nights at the office. Lily threw herself into the report with a focus she hadn't felt in months. She pulled consumer trend data, cross-referenced it with market projections, and built predictive models that accounted for variables she'd never had the authority to explore before. It was the kind of work she'd always wanted to do, deep, strategic, meaningful, the kind of work that actually mattered. And for the first time, people were paying attention. Sandra Ortiz emailed her twice with follow-up questions. The VP of Marketing stopped by her desk to discuss potential collaboration. Even Marcus kept his distance, which was its own kind of victory. By Thursday night, Lily had a 90-page report that she was genuinely proud of. She sent it to Sandra's office at 11 p.m., then went home and collapsed into bed. Friday morning, she woke to an email from Sandra. Excellent work. Let's meet Monday to discuss implementation. Lily read the message 3 times, then allowed herself a moment of cautious optimism. Maybe this was real. Maybe things were actually changing. Her sister picked her up at 6 for dinner. Emily Harper was 2 years younger than Lily, worked in graphic design, and had the kind of effortless confidence Lily had always envied. She pulled up in front of Lily's building in her beat-up Honda, blasting music loud enough to violate several noise ordinances. Get in, loser, Emily called through the open window. We're getting Thai food and you're telling me everything about Mystery Gala Man. Lily slid into the passenger seat. There's nothing to tell. Bullshit. Jennifer from your office texted me, said you showed up with some finance guy who made Marcus look like a used car salesman. Jennifer doesn't even know you. We're friends on Instagram. She reached out after she saw my comment on your post. Emily pulled into traffic. So spill, who is he? Lily hesitated. It's complicated. Complicated how? I hired him. Emily slammed on the brakes. The car behind them honked furiously. You what? Emily demanded. Eyes on the road, Em. You hired him. Like, hired him? It's not what you think. What I think is that my boring, rule-following sister hired a professional date and didn't tell me. Emily started driving again, but her eyes kept darting to Lily. This is the most interesting thing you've ever done. Thanks. So what happened? Was it weird? Did he show up in a limo? Did you have to sign an NDA? No limo. No NDA. He just showed up, and he was really good at it. Good at what? Making me look like I belonged there. Lily stared out the window. He talked to executives like he was one of them. He made Marcus look small. He told the CFO I was being underutilized, and now I'm presenting strategy reports directly to her office. Emily whistled. Damn, this guy's good. Yeah. So what's the problem? The problem is I found out he's not actually an escort. He's Noah Carter. He used to run a massive investment firm. Then his wife died and he became a single dad and walked away from everything. Holy shit. Yeah. And now? And now I don't know what to do because he helped me. He didn't have to, but he did. And now everything's different. And I don't know if it's real or if it's just what? Lily pressed her hands against her face. What if I only got the promotion because of him? What if none of this would have happened without... Stop, Emily said firmly. You got the promotion because you're good at your job. This Noah guy just made sure the right people noticed. That's not cheating. That's called networking. It doesn't feel like networking. What does it feel like? Lily didn't answer. Emily pulled into the parking lot of their favorite Thai restaurant and turned off the car. She twisted in her seat to face Lily directly. "Do you like him?" Emily asked. "I barely know him." "That's not what I asked." Lily looked at her sister. "I don't know, maybe. It doesn't matter." "Why not?" "Because he was doing a job. Because he has a daughter and a life, and I was just some random person who needed help at a gala. It wasn't real." "He told you it was real," Emily pointed out. "How do you so—" "You just told me. He said Saturday night wasn't fake for him. That sounds pretty real to me." Lily shook her head. "I can't do this, Em. I can't get involved with someone who— Who what? Actually sees you for who you are? Who doesn't make you feel small?" Emily's voice softened. "Lily, you've spent the last 6 years shrinking yourself for people who didn't deserve you. Maybe it's time to let someone in who actually does." They went inside. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Emily's latest freelance project, their mom's upcoming birthday, whether they should finally take that trip to Iceland they'd been talking about for years. But Lily's mind kept drifting back to Noah, to the way he'd looked at her in the coffee shop, to the quiet certainty in his voice when he'd said she was going to be fine. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that she could step into this new version of herself, confident, capable, valued, without losing the parts of herself that still felt uncertain and afraid. She wanted to believe that Noah Carter had seen something in her worth protecting. But belief was hard when you'd spent so long being invisible. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Noah. "Don't overthink the report. Trust your instincts. They're better than you think." Lily stared at the screen. Then she typed back, "Thank you for everything." The response came quickly. "Anytime." She set her phone down and tried to focus on her dinner. But her mind was already somewhere else, planning her presentation for Monday, imagining the look on Marcus's face when Sandra announced her promotion, wondering if she'd ever see Noah Carter again, or if Saturday night had been a beautiful, impossible fluke. By Sunday, Lily had rehearsed her presentation 17 times and convinced herself she was going to forget how to speak the moment she walked into Sandra's office. She paced her apartment, adjusting slides that didn't need adjusting, second-guessing conclusions she'd already verified 3 times. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. "Hello?" "Lily," Noah's voice. "How did you get my actual number?" she asked. "You put it on the intake form." "That was my cell. This is my—" She stopped. "Never mind. Why are you calling?" "Because I can hear you spiraling from here, and I wanted to tell you to stop." Lily sat down on her couch. "I'm not spiraling. You've rehearsed your presentation at least 15 times. You're convinced you're going to forget everything the second you walk into that office. And you're probably wearing a hole in your carpet right now." She looked down. Her feet had stopped moving, but the accusation was close enough to accurate that she felt exposed. "How do you know that?" she asked. "Because I've been there. The night before my first major investor pitch, I threw up twice and didn't sleep. I walked into that meeting convinced I was going to fail." "What happened?" "I didn't fail. I closed the deal because I knew the material and I believed in the work." A pause. "Just like you do." Lily closed her eyes. "What if they don't listen?" "They will." Sandra Ortiz didn't ask for this report because she wanted to ignore it. She asked because she knows you're onto something. Noah's voice softened. "Trust yourself, Lily. You've earned this." "I don't feel like I've earned it." "That's because you're used to people taking credit for your work. But that ends tomorrow. This is yours. Own it." She didn't know what to say. "Get some sleep," Noah said. "You're going to be fine." He hung up before she could respond. Lily sat there in the silence of her apartment, phone still pressed to her ear, and felt something shift inside her chest. Noah Carter barely knew her. He had no reason to care whether she succeeded or failed, but he'd called anyway, in the middle of a Sunday evening, just to tell her she was going to be okay. That wasn't nothing. That was something real. She set her phone down, turned off her laptop, and went to bed. And for the first time in days, she actually slept. Monday morning arrived with cold rain and the kind of gray sky that made Lily's alarm feel like a personal attack. She dragged herself out of bed, showered, and stood in front of her closet for 15 minutes trying to decide what someone competent enough to present strategic forecasts to the CFO would wear. She settled on a navy dress and blazer that made her look professional without trying too hard, then spent another 10 minutes staring at her reflection and wondering if she was about to make a fool of herself. Her phone buzzed as she was leaving the apartment. "Noah, you've got this." She didn't respond, just shoved her phone into her bag and headed for the subway. The office felt different when she walked in. Maybe it was the weather, or maybe it was the fact that half the staff were huddled around the coffee machine complaining about Monday, but something had shifted. People nodded at her in the hallway. Jennifer waved from across the floor. Even Marcus, who'd been avoiding her since the gala, gave her a tight smile that looked like it physically hurt him. Lily made it to her desk and pulled up her presentation one final time. The data was solid. The recommendations were backed by months of analysis. She knew this material better than she knew her own apartment, so why did her hands still shake? At 9:45, Sandra's assistant appeared at her desk. "She's ready for you," the assistant said. Lily grabbed her laptop and followed her to the 12th floor. Sandra's office was smaller than Lily had expected. Glass walls overlooking the city, a desk covered in papers and coffee cups, framed photos of what looked like grandchildren scattered among financial reports. Sandra herself sat behind the desk in reading glasses, scrolling through something on her tablet. "Lily," she said, looking up, "come in. Close the door." Lily did. "Sit." She sat. Sandra set down her tablet and folded her hands. "I read your report. Twice, actually. Once on Friday night, and again yesterday morning." Lily's pulse hammered in her ears. "And? And it's the best strategic analysis I've seen from this company in 5 years." Sandra leaned back in her chair. "You identified market shifts we haven't even begun to address. You provided concrete recommendations with actual implementation timelines. And you did it in a week." Lily exhaled slowly. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet." Sandra's expression sharpened. "I want to know why this is the first time I'm seeing work of this quality from you." The question landed like a punch. Lily opened her mouth, then closed it. She could make excuses. She could blame Marcus or the bureaucracy or the fact that no one had ever asked her to do more than crunch numbers and generate reports that disappeared into filing systems. But Noah's voice echoed in her head. "Own it. Because I let someone convince me I wasn't good enough to do it," Lily said quietly. "And I believed him." Sandra's eyebrows rose. "Marcus." It wasn't a question. "Yes," Lily said. "He's been filtering your work." "For 6 years." Sandra was quiet for a moment. Then she pulled off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "I'm going to be honest with you, Lily. I've suspected for a while that Marcus was taking credit for analysis that wasn't his, but I didn't have proof, and I didn't have time to dig into every report that crossed my desk." She looked at Lily directly. "That changes now. From this point forward, you report directly to me. No intermediaries, no filters. You do the work, you get the credit." Lily's throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll stop letting people like Marcus make you small." Sandra's voice was firm, but not unkind. "You're better than that. Start acting like it." "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Sandra stood. "I'm presenting your recommendations to the board next week. I want you there." Lily's stomach dropped. "The board? You wrote the report. You should be the one explaining it." Sandra walked to the door, then paused. "And Lily? Whatever changed for you between last month and now, whatever made you finally stop hiding, keep doing it. Because this version of you is the one this company needs." She left Lily sitting there, heart pounding, mind spinning. The board. She was presenting to the board. She pulled out her phone and stared at Noah's last message. Then she typed, "I think I just got promoted." His response came in seconds. "Told you." Lily smiled despite herself. Then she stood, straightened her blazer, and walked back to her desk, feeling like the floor had shifted under her feet in a way that wasn't entirely terrible. Marcus was waiting for her. He stood beside her desk, arms crossed, wearing the expression of someone who'd just swallowed something bitter and was trying to pretend it tasted fine. "Congratulations," he said. Lily set down her laptop. "Thanks." Reporting directly to Sandra. "That's a big step." "It is." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You know, if you just asked for help, I could have..." "Could have what?" Lily interrupted. "Taken credit for my work again, told Sandra it wasn't ready, convinced everyone I wasn't capable of doing exactly what I just did." That's not fair. Isn't it? She met his eyes. You spent 6 years making sure I stayed invisible, Marcus. You don't get to act like you were trying to help me. His face flushed. I gave you opportunities. You gave me grunt work and told me it was experience. Lily's voice was steady now, something hard settling into place. But that's over. So if you came here looking for me to thank you, or apologize, or make this easier for you, you're wasting your time. Marcus stared at her like he didn't recognize her. Maybe he didn't. Maybe she didn't recognize herself either. Fine, he said finally. Good luck with the board. He walked away. Lily sat down at her desk, her hands still shaking, but her chest lighter than it had been in months. Jennifer appeared 30 seconds later, holding 2 coffees. I saw Marcus slither away looking like someone kicked his dog, Jennifer said, handing Lily one of the cups. Please tell me you finally told him off. Something like that. Good, he's had it coming for years. Jennifer perched on the edge of Lily's desk. So what did Sandra say? She wants me to present to the board. Jennifer's eyes widened. Holy shit, Lily, that's huge. I know. You're going to kill it. I don't know about that. I do. You've been carrying this department for years. It's about time someone noticed. Jennifer glanced toward Marcus's office. How does it feel, finally getting credit for your work? Lily thought about it. Terrifying, but also... She paused. Also right. Like this is what I should have been doing all along. That's because it is. Jennifer stood. Anyway, I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. And if you need someone to practice your presentation on, I'm available. Thanks, Jen. Jennifer walked away, and Lily turned back to her computer. Her inbox was already filling up. Emails from other departments asking about her report, meeting requests from people who'd never acknowledged her existence before. A message from the VP of Marketing asking if she'd be interested in collaborating on a cross-functional project. It was overwhelming. It was also exactly what she'd spent years hoping for. She opened a new document and started outlining her presentation for the board. But her mind kept drifting back to Noah, to the way he'd looked at her in the coffee shop and told her she was better than she thought, to the phone call last night when he'd somehow known exactly what she needed to hear. She picked up her phone. Can I buy you a drink? To say thank you. The response took longer this time, long enough that she started to regret asking. Then, you don't owe me anything. I know, but I want to. Another pause. Thursday night. There's a bar near the waterfront. I'll text you the address. Lily set her phone down, something warm and nervous settling in her chest. This was a bad idea. Getting involved with Noah Carter, a man who'd walked away from a fortune to raise his daughter, who'd helped her out of kindness or guilt or whatever complicated emotion had driven him to show up at her door, was the kind of thing that ended badly. But she was tired of playing it safe. She was tired of shrinking herself to fit into spaces designed for people like Marcus. And if Noah Carter wanted to have a drink with her, she was going to say yes and deal with the consequences later. The week passed in a blur of preparation. Lily refined her presentation until she could recite it in her sleep. She met with Sandra twice more to go over the details, fielding questions about implementation costs and timeline projections. She practiced in front of Jennifer, who gave brutally honest feedback about which slides were boring and which actually mattered. By Thursday, she was as ready as she was going to be. The board meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Lily had 5 days to either keep her nerve or lose it completely. She chose to focus on the drink. Noah had texted her an address, a place called the Lighthouse, tucked along the waterfront in a neighborhood Lily rarely visited. She showed up at 7 wearing jeans and a sweater, feeling underdressed and overthinking everything. The bar was quieter than she'd expected. Exposed brick, low lighting, a bartender who looked like he'd seen enough of humanity to stop being surprised by it. A few scattered tables, most of them empty. And in the corner, near a window overlooking the water, sat Noah. He stood when he saw her. "Hey," he said. "Hey." They sat. A waitress appeared almost immediately, and Lily ordered wine while Noah stuck with whiskey. The silence between them felt weighted, significant in a way that made Lily's pulse quicken. "So," Noah said finally, "how'd the meeting go?" "Good. Really good, actually. Sandra wants me to present to the board next week." Noah's expression softened. "That's incredible. It's terrifying." "Same thing. Lily laughed despite herself. I don't know how you did this. The high-stakes meetings, the pressure. I feel like I'm going to forget how to speak the second I walk into that room. You won't. You don't know that. I do, because you care too much to fail. Noah leaned back in his chair. The people who choke in board meetings are the ones who are faking it. You're not faking anything. You know the material. You believe in the work. That's all you need. Their drinks arrived. Lily took a sip of wine, letting the warmth settle in her chest. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you really help me? And don't say it's because I reminded you of yourself. I want the real reason. Noah was quiet for a long moment. He stared into his glass like the answer was written somewhere in the amber liquid. My wife, he said finally. She was brilliant, smarter than me, sharper than most people I've ever met. But she spent years working for a company that didn't value her. She'd come home frustrated, talking about how her ideas were being ignored or stolen, and I'd tell her to fight back, to demand recognition, to stop letting people walk over her. He paused. But I never actually helped her do it. I was too busy building my own career, chasing my own success. I told myself she'd figure it out on her own. And she did, eventually. But it cost her. She burned out, left that job, and spent the last 2 years of her life trying to find work that actually mattered to her. Lily's chest ached. Noah? When I read your intake form and I saw what you were dealing with, this guy taking credit for your work, making you feel small, it was like reading her story all over again. And I thought, maybe this time I could actually do something about it. He looked up, meeting her eyes. So yeah, I helped you because I didn't help her. And I've been carrying that for 6 years. The honesty of it hit Lily like a wave. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't be. It's not your fault. Noah took a drink. But it's why I meant what I said. Saturday night wasn't fake for me. Because helping you, watching you finally stand up for yourself, it felt like I was fixing something I should have fixed a long time ago. Lily didn't know what to say. Every response that came to mind felt inadequate, too small to hold the weight of what he'd just shared. So instead, she reached across the table and put her hand over his. Noah looked down at their hands, then back at her. You're not responsible for fixing me, Lily said, but I'm glad you were there. I don't think I would have done any of this without you. You would have, eventually. Maybe. But it would have taken longer, and I would have been alone. She squeezed his hand. So thank you. For seeing me. For helping me see myself. Noah's expression shifted, something raw and unguarded flickering across his face. You're welcome. They sat like that for a moment, hands linked across the table, the noise of the bar fading into background static. Then Noah pulled his hand back, and the moment broke. Tell me about the board presentation, he said, his voice steadier now. What are you most worried about? Lily latched onto the change in subject, grateful for the distraction. Honestly? That they'll ask a question I can't answer, or that I'll freeze up and forget everything I prepared. They won't ask anything you can't answer. You know this material better than anyone in that room. How can you be sure? Because you wrote a 90-page report in a week. That's not something someone does if they don't know what they're talking about. Noah leaned forward. And if you do freeze, which you won't, you take a breath, you acknowledge the question, and you circle back to the data. The numbers don't lie. Let them do the talking. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, but it's doable. And you're more than capable. They talked for another hour about her presentation, about his daughter, about the strange trajectory both their lives had taken. Noah told her about Mia, his 6-year-old, who was obsessed with dinosaurs and refused to eat anything green. Lily told him about her sister Emily, who'd spent the last week texting her unsolicited advice about how to seal the deal with Mystery Gala Man. She thinks I should ask you out properly, Lily said, then immediately regretted it. Noah's mouth quirked. Does she? I told her this wasn't, that we weren't. Lily stumbled over the words. I mean, you were helping me. This isn't a date. Isn't it? The question hung between them. Lily's pulse kicked up. Is it? Noah considered this. I don't know. What do you want it to be? She should have said it wasn't. She should have laughed it off, kept things light, maintained the boundary between gratitude and something more complicated. But she was tired of pretending. I don't know either, she admitted. But I know I like talking to you. And I know you're the first person in a long time who's made me feel like I'm not invisible. You were never invisible, Noah said quietly. People just weren't paying attention. Well, you were. Yeah. His gaze held hers. I was. The air between them felt charged, fragile. Then Noah's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted. I'm sorry. I have to take this. Of course. He stepped outside. Lily sat alone at the table, her heart racing. This was dangerous territory. Getting involved with Noah meant opening herself up to someone who'd already seen her at her most desperate, who knew exactly how much she'd been struggling. It meant risking the fragile confidence she'd just started to build. But it also meant being with someone who actually understood her, who didn't need her to explain why Marcus's dismissals had hurt, or why the board presentation terrified her. Someone who'd walked away from power and success and knew what it cost. Noah came back inside, his expression troubled. Everything okay? Lily asked. Yeah, just babysitter emergency. Mia's running a fever and I need to get home. Of course. Go. Noah hesitated. I'm sorry. I wanted to... Don't apologize. Your daughter comes first. Something softened in his expression. Thank you. He pulled out his wallet. I've got it, Lily said. I'm the one who asked you here, remember? Noah smiled. Next time, then. Next time, Lily echoed. He left. Lily sat alone in this bar, finishing her wine and trying to untangle the knot of emotions in her chest. She'd come here to thank Noah for helping her. She'd ended up learning more about him in an hour than she'd learned about Marcus in 2 years of dating. And now she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her when she'd put her hand over his. Her phone buzzed. Noah. Mia's fine, just a low-grade fever, but thank you for understanding. Lily. Of course, tell her I hope she feels better. Noah. I will. And Lily? Lily. Yeah? Noah. Good luck with the board. You're going to be incredible. She smiled at her phone like an idiot. Then she paid the check and headed home, feeling like the ground beneath her feet had shifted again, but this time in a way that felt less like falling and more like flying. The weekend passed too quickly. Lily practiced her presentation until the words lost all meaning, then practiced some more. Emily came over on Saturday and made her run through it 3 times, interrupting with increasingly absurd questions to prepare her for worst-case scenarios. Okay, but what if someone asks how this impacts the company's carbon footprint? Emily asked. Why would they ask that? I don't know. Rich people ask weird questions. Just answer it. Our recommendations don't directly address environmental impact, but increased digital engagement typically reduces physical resource consumption, Lily said automatically. Good. Now what if someone has a heart attack mid-presentation? Em, that's not helpful. You never know. By Sunday night, Lily was as prepared as she was ever going to be. She sent Noah a message. I think I'm ready, or as ready as I'll ever be. His response came immediately. You're ready. Trust me. Monday crawled by in a haze of nervous energy. Lily couldn't focus on anything. She reorganized her desk twice, responded to emails that didn't need responses, and drank so much coffee her hands shook. At 4 p.m., Sandra stopped by her desk. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Sandra said. Conference room A. Don't be late. I won't be. And Lily, breathe. You've done the hard part. Tomorrow's just explaining it to people who don't understand numbers as well as you do. Lily nodded, not trusting herself to speak. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through her presentation for the 100th time. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the boardroom, a table full of executives in expensive suits, all of them watching her, waiting for her to prove she belonged there. At midnight, her phone rang. Noah. Can't sleep? He asked when she answered. How did you know? Because I've been there. The night before my first board presentation, I was convinced I was going to fail so spectacularly they'd fire me on the spot. What happened? I walked in, presented my plan, and closed the biggest deal of my career. A pause. You're going to do the same thing. I don't feel like it. You don't have to feel like it. You just have to show up and do the work. His voice was calm, steady. The fear doesn't go away, Lily, but it stops mattering once you start talking, because you know this material, and once you get going, they won't be able to stop you. Lily closed her eyes. What if I freeze? You won't. But what if? Then you take a breath, look at your notes, and keep going. Perfection isn't the goal. Communication is. And you're good at that. She wanted to believe him. Get some sleep, Noah said gently. Tomorrow, you're going to walk into that room and show them exactly who you are. And they're going to be lucky to have you. Noah, I mean it. Now turn off your phone and get some rest. You've got this. He hung up. Lily set her phone on the nightstand, pulled the covers up to her chin, and somehow, impossibly, fell asleep. Tuesday morning arrived cold and bright. Lily dressed carefully, the same navy suit she'd worn to meet Sandra, paired with the silver necklace her grandmother had given her years ago. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked competent, confident, like someone who belonged in a boardroom. The subway ride downtown felt surreal. Lily clutched her laptop bag and tried to remember how to breathe. By the time she reached the office, her heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. Sandra was waiting outside conference room A. You ready? Sandra asked. No, Lily admitted. Good. That means you care. Sandra opened the door. Let's go. The boardroom was exactly as intimidating as Lily had imagined. A massive table, high-backed leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and seated around the table were 8 people who collectively controlled the future of the company. Lily recognized a few faces from corporate newsletters. The CEO, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and an expression that gave nothing away. The board chair, an older man who looked like he'd spent his entire life in rooms like this. Several others she didn't know. And at the far end of the table, looking deeply uncomfortable, sat Marcus. Of course he was here. Lily's stomach dropped. Sandra must have seen her reaction because she leaned in and whispered, Ignore him. He's only here because he's the VP. He doesn't get a vote. That helped. Slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, Sandra said, addressing the room, this is Lily Harper, one of our senior analysts. She's put together a strategic forecast that I believe represents the future direction of this company. Lily, the floor is yours. Lily stepped forward. For one terrible moment, every word she'd prepared vanished from her mind. She stood there, frozen, staring at 8 pairs of eyes that expected her to say something brilliant. Then she looked at Marcus. He was smiling, that same smug, condescending smile he'd worn 1,000 times when he'd dismissed her ideas or taken credit for her work. And something inside Lily snapped. She wasn't doing this for Marcus. She wasn't doing it for the board, or Sandra, or even herself. She was doing it because the work mattered, because she'd spent 6 years watching people make decisions based on incomplete data and gut feelings instead of actual analysis. Because she knew that what she'd found could change everything. She opened her laptop, pulled up her first slide, and started talking. Over the past 18 months, we've seen a significant shift in consumer behavior across our primary market segments. Traditional retail engagement is down 42%, while digital platform interaction has increased by 68%. This isn't a temporary trend. This is a fundamental restructuring of how our customers engage with products and services. She clicked to the next slide. What we're seeing is a migration toward platforms that prioritize personalization, convenience, and community engagement. Our current strategy doesn't account for this shift. If we continue on our present trajectory, we'll lose market share to competitors who are already adapting. The CEO leaned forward. What's your recommendation? Lily met her eyes. We need to restructure our digital presence entirely, not just improving our website or adding social media campaigns. I'm talking about building an integrated platform that allows for real-time customer engagement, personalized product recommendations, and community-driven content creation. That's a significant investment, the board chair said. It is, but the cost of not investing is higher. Lily pulled up a comparison chart. I've modeled both scenarios. If we implement these changes over the next 18 months, our projections show a 35% increase in customer retention and a 28% growth in new customer acquisition. If we don't, we'll see a continued decline that puts us at a competitive disadvantage within 3 years. For the next 45 minutes, Lily walked them through her analysis. She fielded questions about implementation costs, timeline projections, potential risks. She explained her methodology, defended her assumptions, and adjusted her recommendations based on feedback from people who actually understood what she was talking about. And Marcus sat there, silent, his smile fading with every slide. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the CEO said, "This is excellent work, Ms. Harper. Truly excellent. Sandra, I assume you're planning to move forward with these recommendations?" "I am," Sandra said, "with the board's approval." "You have it. Let's schedule a follow-up meeting to discuss implementation." The CEO looked at Lily. "I'd like you there as well. Your insights will be valuable as we move forward." Lily's chest felt tight. "Thank you." The meeting ended. People filed out, several of them stopping to shake Lily's hand or offer congratulations. Sandra squeezed her shoulder and whispered, "Told you," before heading off to talk to the CEO. Lily stood alone in the boardroom, her laptop still open, trying to process what had just happened. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. "Lily," she turned. Marcus stood near the door, his expression unreadable. "That was—" He paused. "That was really good." "Thanks," she said, because she didn't know what else to say. "I mean it. I didn't think—" He stopped himself. "Congratulations." He left before she could respond. Lily packed up her laptop and walked back to her desk in a daze. Jennifer was waiting with coffee and a grin that could have powered the entire building. "I heard you killed it," Jennifer said. "Who told you that?" "Sandra's assistant. She said the CEO actually smiled. Apparently that never happens." Lily laughed, the sound coming out shaky and relieved. "I can't believe that just happened." "Believe it. You earned it." Lily sat down at her desk and pulled out her phone. One message from Noah. "How did it go?" She typed back, "I think I just changed my entire career." His response was immediate. "I knew you would. Proud of you." Lily stared at the message, something warm and overwhelming settling in her chest. She'd spent 6 years waiting for someone to notice her, waiting for permission to be good at what she did, waiting for the validation that she was worth listening to. But the truth was, she'd never needed permission. She just needed to stop waiting. And maybe, just maybe, she needed someone like Noah Carter to remind her of that. She texted Noah back immediately. "Can I see you tonight? I want to tell you in person." The response took longer than usual, long enough that Lily refreshed her email, organized her desk, and started second-guessing whether she should have just called instead. Then, "I'd like that. But I should probably mention, Mia's still homesick. Would you be okay coming here? I can order dinner." Lily stared at the message. He was inviting her to his house, where his daughter was. This wasn't a drink at a bar or coffee in a neutral space. This was real life, messy and complicated, and exactly the kind of thing she should probably think twice about. She typed, "What's your address?" He sent it along with, "Fair warning, the place is a disaster. 6-year-olds don't believe in cleaning up after themselves." "I'll survive," Lily wrote back. She left work at 5, stopped at a bakery to grab cookies because showing up empty-handed to meet someone's kid felt wrong, and took the subway to a neighborhood she'd only passed through on her way to somewhere else. Noah's building was nicer than hers, pre-war brick with actual architectural detail, a doorman who smiled and waved her through when she gave Noah's name. The elevator creaked on the way up to the 4th floor. Lily clutched the bakery box and tried to remember how to act like a normal human being around children. She had nieces and nephews, but they lived out of state and she only saw them on holidays. What did 6-year-olds even talk about? She found Noah's apartment and knocked. The door opened. Noah stood there in jeans and a t-shirt, his hair slightly disheveled, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Behind him, she caught a glimpse of a living room scattered with toys, books piled on a coffee table, a blanket fort constructed between the couch and a chair. "Hey," he said. "Hey. Come in. Fair warning, Mia's in a mood. The fever broke this morning, but she's mad I won't let her go to school." 6-year-olds get mad about that? Mine does. She's got a dinosaur presentation on Friday, and she's convinced her classmates will forget everything if she's not there to remind them. Noah stepped aside to let her in. "Mia, we have a visitor." A small voice from somewhere deeper in the apartment yelled back, "Is it Grandma?" "No." "Then I don't care," Noah sighed. "She's delightful today." Lily stepped inside, taking in the space. The apartment was smaller than she'd expected, cozy, lived in, with evidence of a child everywhere. Drawings taped to the refrigerator, a backpack dumped by the door, sneakers in two different sizes kicked off near the couch. It looked nothing like the sterile, expensive spaces she'd imagined a former billionaire would inhabit. It looked like a home. "I brought cookies," Lily said, holding up the box. "You didn't have to do that." "I know, but I didn't know what else to bring, and showing up empty-handed felt weird." Noah smiled. "Mia will love you forever. She's been living on crackers and applesauce for 2 days." He led her into the living room. A little girl sat cross-legged on the couch, wrapped in a purple blanket covered in dinosaurs, watching a nature documentary with intense focus. She had Noah's dark hair and her mother's delicate features. Lily could tell from the framed photo on the bookshelf, and she didn't look up when they entered. "Mia," Noah said gently. "This is my friend Lily." Mia glanced at her, unimpressed. "Hi." "Hi," Lily said. "I heard you're not feeling well." "I'm fine now. Dad won't let me go to school even though my temperature is normal." "That's because normal temperature for 6 hours doesn't mean you're not contagious," Noah said. "You don't know that." "I do, actually. That's how fevers work." Mia rolled her eyes with the kind of dramatic flair only small children could pull off, then returned her attention to the TV. Noah gestured toward the kitchen. "Come on, I'll get you something to drink." Lily followed him, acutely aware that this was the first time she'd been in his space, seeing his life instead of the carefully controlled version he'd shown her at the gala. The kitchen was small but functional, with a calendar on the wall covered in color-coded schedules and a mug that said "World's Okayest Dad" sitting beside the coffee maker. "Wine?" Noah asked, opening the refrigerator. "Please." He poured 2 glasses and handed her one. "So, board meeting. Tell me everything." Lily leaned against the counter. "I walked in, saw Marcus sitting there looking smug, and for about 10 seconds I thought I was going to pass out." "But you didn't." "No. I looked at him, and I remembered every time he talked over me in a meeting or dismissed my work, and I just decided I wasn't doing this for him. I was doing it because the analysis mattered." And I nailed it." She took a drink, the relief and disbelief still fresh. "The CEO approved everything. Sandra wants me in the implementation meetings." Marcus sat there the entire time without saying a word. Noah's expression shifted into something that looked like pride. "I told you." "You did, and I didn't believe you." "But you showed up anyway." "Because you wouldn't stop telling me I could do it." Lily met his eyes. "So thank you. Again. For the 100th time." "You're welcome, for the 100th time." He set down his glass. "But Lily, you need to stop thanking me. You did this, not me. I just gave you a push. A pretty significant push." "Maybe, but you're the one who followed through. You wrote the report. You delivered the presentation. You stood in front of those people and proved you belonged there." His voice softened. "That was all you." Before Lily could respond, Mia appeared in the doorway, still wrapped in her blanket. "Dad, I'm hungry. I ordered pizza. It'll be here in 20 minutes. I want it now." "Well, unless you've developed teleportation powers since this morning, you're going to have to wait." Mia looked at Lily. "Did you really bring cookies?" "I did," Lily said. "What kind?" "Chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin." Mia considered this. "Oatmeal raisin is weird, but I'll eat it if I have to." "Mia," Noah said, his tone carrying a warning. "What?" "I'm being honest." Lily bit back a smile. "That's fair. I think oatmeal raisin is weird too." Mia's expression brightened slightly. "Can I have a cookie now?" "After dinner," Noah said. "That's not fair." "Life's not fair. You'll survive." Mia huffed and disappeared back into the living room. Noah rubbed his face. "Sorry, she's usually better with strangers." "She's fine. She's sick and stuck at home. I'd be grumpy too." "She's grumpy even when she's not sick." But he said it with the kind of affection that made Lily's chest ache. "She's also stubborn, opinionated, and way too smart for her own good." "Sounds like someone I know," Lily said. Noah shot her a look. "I'm not that bad." "You literally walked into my apartment, assessed the situation in 30 seconds, and spent the next 4 hours making sure I didn't fall apart at a corporate gala. That takes a special kind of stubbornness. That's called being thorough. That's called being a control freak." Noah laughed, the sound genuine and unguarded. "Okay, maybe a little." The pizza arrived 20 minutes later. They ate in the living room while Mia peppered Lily with questions about whether she liked dinosaurs, what her favorite color was, and if she thought pterodactyls counted as dinosaurs even though they were technically flying reptiles. I don't know enough about dinosaurs to have an informed opinion, Lily admitted. That's okay, Mia said generously. Most people don't, but I can teach you if you want. I'd like that. Mia beamed. After dinner, Noah sent Mia to brush her teeth and get ready for bed. She protested, naturally, but eventually shuffled off down the hallway with her blanket dragging behind her. She likes you, Noah said once they were alone. How can you tell? She barely talked to me. She offered to teach you about dinosaurs. That's Mia's version of a marriage proposal. Lily laughed. Good to know. Noah started cleaning up the pizza boxes, and Lily helped without asking. They moved around the small kitchen with surprising ease, falling into a rhythm that felt comfortable despite the fact that they barely knew each other. Can I ask you something? Lily said as she rinsed plates. Sure. Why did you really step back from Carter Holdings? I know you said it was to be there for Mia, but there's more to it, isn't there? Noah was quiet for a moment. He set down the dish towel and leaned against the counter. My wife's name was Elena, he said finally. We met in grad school. She was studying architecture, and I was getting my MBA. We got married young, had Mia young, and spent the next 6 years building careers that didn't leave room for much else. He paused, staring at something Lily couldn't see. The night she died, she was driving home from a client meeting. Some guy ran a red light and hit her car head-on. She was gone before the ambulance arrived. His voice was steady, but Lily could hear the weight beneath it. And I remember standing in the hospital, holding Mia, thinking about all the times Elena had asked me to come home early or take a weekend off. And I'd said no because I had a deal to close or a meeting I couldn't miss. Lily's throat tightened. So when I walked away from the firm, it wasn't just about being there for Mia. It was about proving to myself that I could actually prioritize the things that mattered, that I could be the kind of father Elena deserved to see me be. He looked at Lily. I don't regret it. Not for a second. But it's also why I take these jobs sometimes. Because sitting at home, being a good dad, it's everything. But it's also lonely. And every once in a while, I need to remember that I'm still capable of being more than just someone's father. Lily didn't know what to say. Every response felt inadequate. I'm sorry, she managed, for your loss and for everything you went through. Don't be. It made me who I am, Noah straightened. And it's why helping you mattered. Because I saw someone fighting to be seen, and I remembered what that felt like. And I thought, maybe this time I can actually make a difference. You did, Lily said quietly. You made more of a difference than you know. Their eyes met and something passed between them. An understanding, a recognition. They were both people who'd been invisible in different ways, both trying to figure out how to exist in spaces that didn't quite fit. The moment stretched, fragile and significant. Then Mia's voice echoed from the hallway. Dad, I'm ready for bed and you didn't tuck me in yet. Noah smiled. Duty calls. Go, I'll finish cleaning up. You don't have to. I want to. He hesitated, then nodded and disappeared down the hallway. Lily finished loading the dishwasher, wiped down the counters, and tried to process everything Noah had just told her. He'd built an empire, lost the person he loved most, and walked away from everything to become a single father. And somehow, in the middle of all that grief and rebuilding, he'd found space to help a stranger navigate a corporate gala. It didn't make sense. Except it did, because that was who Noah was. Someone who saw people struggling and couldn't help but step in. Someone who carried guilt and loss and still chose to show up for others. Someone Lily was dangerously close to falling for. Noah returned 15 minutes later, looking exhausted. She asleep? Lily asked. Finally. She made me read 3 chapters of her dinosaur encyclopedia and explain why brachiosauruses probably didn't actually exist the way they're depicted in movies. He collapsed onto the couch. I'm not equipped for these conversations. Lily sat down beside him. You seem to be doing fine. I'm winging it. Most of parenting is just winging it and hoping you don't screw them up too badly. I think you're doing better than you give yourself credit for. Noah looked at her, something soft in his expression. You keep saying things like that because they're true. Or because you're generous. Maybe both. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The apartment was quiet now, just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic outside. I should probably go, Lily said, even though she didn't want to. Yeah, probably. Neither of them moved. Lily, Noah said quietly. She looked at him. I need to tell you something. Her heart kicked up. Okay. Whatever this is, it's not just gratitude for me. And it's not just guilt about my wife or some misguided attempt to fix something I couldn't fix 6 years ago. He turned to face her fully. I like you. I like talking to you. I like the way you challenge yourself even when you're terrified. I like that you showed up here tonight with cookies for a kid you've never met because you didn't know what else to do. Lily's breath caught. But I also need you to know that my life is complicated, Noah continued. I have a daughter who comes first, always. I don't have the bandwidth for games or casual dating or anything that isn't real. So if you're just figuring things out and I'm part of that process, I need to know now, because I can't do this halfway. Lily's mind raced. This was the moment. The point where she could back out, keep things safe, protect herself from the risk of getting hurt, but she was tired of playing it safe. I don't know what this is, she said honestly. I don't know if I'm ready for something serious or if I even know how to do this. But I know I like you too. And I know that every time I talk to you, I feel like I'm becoming a version of myself I actually want to be. Noah's expression softened. So I can't promise I won't screw this up, Lily continued. But if you're willing to figure it out with me, if you're okay with messy and imperfect, then yeah, I want to try. For a moment, Noah just looked at her. Then he reached out and took her hand. Messy and imperfect works for me, he said. Lily smiled. Good. They sat like that, hands linked, the weight of everything they'd just said settling around them. Then Lily's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. You should check that, Noah said. Lily reluctantly pulled out her phone. 3 messages from Emily. How's the date going? Wait, is it a date? If you don't answer in the next 5 minutes, I'm calling the police. Lily laughed and typed back, I'm fine. It's good. I'll call you tomorrow. Emily, details. I need details. Tomorrow, Lily wrote firmly. She put her phone away and looked at Noah. My sister thinks I'm on a date. Are you? I don't know. Am I? Do you want to be? Lily considered this. Yeah, I think I do. Noah smiled. Then you are. He stood and pulled her up from the couch. Come on, I'll walk you down. They rode the elevator in silence, standing close but not touching. When they reached the lobby, Noah walked her outside. The night air was cool, and the street was quiet except for a few passing cars. Thank you for tonight, Lily said. You already thanked me. Multiple times. I know, but I mean it. So do I when I say you don't need to keep thanking me. Noah's expression turned serious. I meant what I said upstairs. About this being real. I don't do casual well. Neither do I. Good. He hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her forehead. It was brief, gentle, and somehow more intimate than anything else that had happened between them. Text me when you get home, he said. I will. Lily walked to the subway station with her heart racing and her mind spinning. She'd gone to Noah's apartment to tell him about the board meeting. She'd left with the beginning of something she hadn't expected and wasn't sure she was ready for. But for the first time in years, she was willing to take the risk. The next few weeks passed in a blur of work and carefully orchestrated dates that had to fit around Mia's schedule. Lily met Noah for coffee before he picked Mia up from school. They grabbed lunch on days when Mia had play dates. Once, they managed an actual dinner at a restaurant, though Noah checked his phone every 10 minutes to make sure the babysitter didn't need him. It was chaotic and imperfect and nothing like the relationships Lily had imagined. It was also the most honest thing she'd ever experienced. Noah didn't pretend to have everything figured out. He was scattered, overprotective of his daughter, and occasionally checked out of conversations because he was mentally running through Mia's schedule. But he was also present in a way Marcus had never been. He listened when Lily talked about work. He remembered details about her presentations and asked follow-up questions. He made space for her even when his life was already full. And slowly, Lily started to do the same. She learned Mia's schedule, asked about her dinosaur presentation, showed up at Noah's apartment on weeknights with takeout so he didn't have to cook after a long day with a hyperactive 6-year-old. It felt real in a way that terrified her. At work, things were changing too. Sandra promoted her to senior strategic analyst with a salary bump that made Lily's eyes water when she saw the offer letter. She was pulled into executive meetings, asked to weigh in on decisions that would shape the company's direction. People who'd ignored her for years suddenly wanted her input. Marcus, predictably, spiraled. He started missing meetings, showing up late, making mistakes in reports that got flagged by Sandra's office. 2 weeks after Lily's board presentation, he was called into a closed-door meeting with HR. Jennifer texted Lily immediately. Marcus just got escorted out of the building. Rumor is they're investigating him for taking credit for other people's work. Lily stared at the message, a complicated mix of satisfaction and something that felt uncomfortably like pity settling in her chest. She texted back, "Do we know who reported him?" "No idea. But whoever it was has been collecting evidence for months." Lily set down her phone and tried to focus on work. But she couldn't shake the image of Marcus walking out of the building with a box of his belongings, his career imploding because someone had finally decided to hold him accountable. Part of her felt vindicated. Part of her just felt sad. That night, she told Noah about it over dinner at his apartment. "He's gone," she said. "They fired him." Noah looked up from the pasta he was serving. "How do you feel about that?" "I don't know. Relieved, I guess, but also—" She hesitated. "It's weird. I spent 6 years resenting him, and now that he's actually facing consequences, I just feel tired." "That's normal." "Is it?" "Yeah, anger takes energy. Once the person's gone, there's nothing left to be angry at." Noah handed her a plate. "Doesn't mean what he did was okay. It just means you're ready to move on." Lily took a bite of pasta, letting the words settle. "I think I am. Ready to move on, I mean." "Good. You deserve that." Mia wandered into the kitchen, still in her school clothes, dragging her backpack behind her. "Lily, can you help me with my homework?" she asked. "Mia, Lily's not here to do your homework," Noah said. "I know, but she's good at math and you're not." "I'm fine at math." "You told me last week that fractions are stupid." "They are stupid, but I can still help you with them." Mia turned to Lily with an expression of profound suffering. "Please?" Lily laughed. "What do you need help with?" "Word problems. They're terrible." They sat at the kitchen table while Noah cleaned up dinner. Lily helped Mia work through a series of increasingly absurd math problems, involving trains leaving stations and people buying watermelons in bulk. Mia complained the entire time, but she also got every answer right once Lily explained the logic. "You're good at this," Noah said quietly, leaning against the counter and watching them. "At what?" Lily asked. "This, being here, with us." Lily looked at Mia, who was erasing something with aggressive determination, and then at Noah, who was smiling at her with an openness that made her chest ache. "I like being here," she said. And she meant it. 3 weeks after Marcus's firing, Sandra called Lily into her office. "Close the door," Sandra said. Lily's stomach dropped. Had she done something wrong? Missed a deadline? Screwed up a report? "Relax," Sandra said, seeing her expression. "You're not in trouble. Sit down." Lily sat. Sandra leaned back in her chair. "I'm restructuring the strategic division. We're expanding the team, bringing in more analysts, and I need someone to lead it." Lily's heart started pounding. "I want that person to be you," Sandra continued. "You'd oversee a team of 5, report directly to me, and have final say on all strategic forecasts that go to the board. It's a significant increase in responsibility. But after what you've accomplished in the last month, I don't think there's anyone better suited for the role." Lily couldn't speak. "The title is Director of Strategic Analysis," Sandra said. "The salary is competitive. And before you ask, yes, this is because of your work, not because I feel bad about what Marcus did, or because I'm trying to make up for lost time. You've earned this." Lily finally found her voice. "Yes?" Sandra smiled. "Yes? Yes, I want the job. I'll take it. Thank you." "Good. HR will send you the formal offer by end of day. Welcome to leadership, Lily. Don't screw it up." Lily walked out of Sandra's office in a daze. She made it back to her desk, sat down, and stared at her computer screen without seeing it. Director of Strategic Analysis. Her own team. Final say on forecasts. This was everything she'd spent 6 years working toward, everything she'd convinced herself she'd never achieve. And it had happened in a month because she'd finally stopped waiting for permission. She pulled out her phone and texted Noah. "I just got promoted to director." His response was immediate. "That's incredible. I'm so proud of you." Then, "Dinner tonight? My place. We'll celebrate." Lily smiled. "I'll bring wine. Bring yourself." "That's enough." She set her phone down and let herself feel it. The pride, the disbelief, the bone-deep satisfaction of knowing she'd done this. Not because of Noah, not because someone had finally given her a chance, but because she'd stopped making herself small. And for the first time in her life, Lily Harper felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. That night, Lily showed up at Noah's apartment with 2 bottles of wine and a nervous energy she couldn't quite shake. The promotion was real. The offer letter had arrived in her inbox an hour ago, complete with a salary that made her want to call her mother and cry. But underneath the elation was something else, a creeping doubt that whispered she didn't deserve this, that it had happened too fast, that she was going to wake up tomorrow and find out it was all a mistake. Noah opened the door before she could knock. "I heard you pacing in the hallway," he said. "I wasn't pacing." "You were definitely pacing." He took the wine bottles from her hands and set them on the counter. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I got promoted. Everything's great." Noah just looked at her. "Okay, fine," Lily said, collapsing onto his couch. "I'm terrified. Is that what you want to hear?" "I want to hear what's actually going on in your head." He sat down beside her. "Talk to me." Lily pressed her palms against her eyes. "What if I can't do this? What if I'm not ready to lead a team? What if Sandra made a mistake and I end up proving that Marcus was right about me all along?" "Marcus was never right about you." "But what if he was? What if the only reason I got this far is because you showed up and made everyone pay attention? What if I'm not actually good enough?" Noah was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you remember what you told me about your board presentation? That I almost passed out?" "No. You said you looked at Marcus and decided you weren't doing it for him, that you were doing it because the work mattered." Noah turned to face her. "That's still true. This promotion isn't about proving Marcus wrong or making me proud or living up to Sandra's expectations. It's about doing work that matters because you're good at it. That's all it's ever been." "But what if I fail?" "Then you'll figure it out and keep going, same as you've done with everything else." His voice softened. "Lily, you didn't get here by accident. You got here because you're smart, thorough, and you care more than most people in that building. The only person who doesn't believe that is you." Lily looked at him. "How are you always so sure?" "Because I've watched you. I've seen the way you work, the way you think. You don't take shortcuts. You don't half-ass anything. And when people try to make you small, you fight back, even when you're scared." He reached for her hand. "That's not luck. That's who you are." The words settled over her like a blanket, warm and solid. "I'm still terrified," she admitted. "Good, that means you care." Noah squeezed her hand. "Now come on. We're celebrating whether you like it or not." He disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 glasses of wine. Mia wandered in a moment later, wearing pajamas covered in cartoon pterodactyls, her hair still damp from a bath. "Did Lily get fired?" Mia asked. "What? No," Noah said. "Why would you think that?" "Because she looks sad and people only drink wine when they're sad or fired." "I'm not sad or fired," Lily said. "I got promoted." Mia's face lit up. "Does that mean you're the boss now?" "Sort of. I'm going to be in charge of a team." "That's cool. Dad used to be in charge of people, and he says it's mostly just telling them to stop doing stupid things." Noah choked on his wine. "I did not say that." "You said it last week when you were on the phone." "That was a different context." "What's context?" "It means Dad's trying to backtrack," Lily said. Mia grinned. "I like you. You're funny." "Thanks. You're pretty funny yourself." Mia climbed onto the couch between them, tucking herself under Noah's arm. "Are you going to come over more now that you're the boss?" Lily glanced at Noah, who was suddenly very interested in his wine glass. "I don't know," Lily said carefully. "Would you want me to?" Mia considered this with the seriousness of a child deliberating world peace. "Yeah, you're better at homework than Dad, and you brought good cookies that one time. Plus Dad smiles more when you're here." Noah's ears turned red. Okay, bedtime, now. But I'm not tired. You were tired 5 minutes ago when you said you couldn't brush your teeth because you were too exhausted. That was different. Mia, bed, go. Mia sighed dramatically but slid off the couch. She paused at the hallway and looked back at Lily. You're coming to my dinosaur presentation on Friday, right? Lily's heart squeezed. I didn't know I was invited. You are now. Dad said you're smart, so you'll probably understand the science better than the other parents. I'll be there, Lily said. Mia beamed and disappeared down the hallway. Noah rubbed his face. I'm sorry. She's great, Lily interrupted. And she's right. You do smile more when I'm around. Yeah, well, you make it easy. They finished the wine while Noah told her about Mia's week, a minor crisis involving a classmate who'd claimed T-Rexes couldn't actually roar, a stolen granola bar at lunch, a meltdown over mismatched socks. It was mundane and ordinary, and somehow the most intimate conversation Lily had ever had. This was Noah's life, not boardrooms and high-stakes deals, just a man trying to raise a daughter who had opinions about everything and the energy of a small tornado. And Lily realized she wanted to be part of it. Not as a visitor, not as someone passing through, as someone who stayed. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it settled into her chest like something that had been waiting there all along. On Friday, Lily left work early and showed up at Mia's school with a knot of nerves in her stomach that had nothing to do with her new job. The classroom was packed with parents holding phones, ready to record their children's presentations. Noah waved at her from the back row, and she slid into the seat beside him. Thanks for coming, he said quietly. I promised Mia I would. I don't break promises. I know. It's one of the things He stopped himself. Just thank you. Mia's presentation was scheduled third. She stood at the front of the classroom in a dinosaur t-shirt, holding a poster board covered in drawings and facts written in careful 6-year-old handwriting, and launched into an explanation of why pterodactyls were misunderstood. She was confident, articulate, and completely unbothered by the room full of adults watching her. Lily felt a surge of pride that made no logical sense. This wasn't her kid. She'd known Mia for less than 2 months, but it was there anyway, fierce and undeniable. When Mia finished, the room erupted in applause. She grinned, took a bow, and returned to her seat looking immensely pleased with herself. Afterward, Noah and Lily waited outside while Mia said goodbye to her friends. She was incredible, Lily said. She really was. Noah's voice was thick with emotion. Elena would have loved this. She always said Mia was going to do something important someday. Lily reached for his hand. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. He looked at Lily. And I'm lucky to have you here. The words hung between them, significant and terrifying. Before Lily could respond, Mia burst through the school doors, backpack bouncing. Did you see? I didn't mess up once. You were perfect, Noah said, scooping her up into a hug. Lily, did you like it? I loved it, especially the part about how pterodactyls had hollow bones for flight. Mia's eyes went wide. You actually listened. Of course I listened. Most adults just pretend to listen and then ask weird questions that prove they weren't paying attention. Mia, Noah warned. What? It's true. They went out for ice cream to celebrate. Mia ordered something with gummy worms that made Lily's teeth hurt just looking at it, while Noah and Lily shared a sundae and listened to Mia's running commentary on which of her classmates had given the best presentations. Tommy did volcanoes, but he didn't even talk about tectonic plates, which is like the whole point, Mia said between bites. And Sarah did butterflies, which was pretty, but not very scientific. Did anyone else do dinosaurs? Lily asked. No, because I'm the only one who knows enough about them. Mia said this with zero arrogance, just stating a fact. Dad says I should let other people have interest too, but I don't know why when dinosaurs are obviously the best interest. That's fair, Lily said, trying not to laugh. They drove home as the sun set, Mia chattering in the back seat while Noah navigated traffic with one hand and held Lily's with the other. It felt domestic and comfortable, and like something Lily could get used to. Back at the apartment, Mia crashed almost immediately, the adrenaline of the presentation finally wearing off. Noah tucked her in while Lily cleaned up the ice cream wrappers and tried to figure out how her life had changed so completely in such a short time. 2 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now she had a promotion, a team to lead, and a man whose daughter asked her to come to school presentations. It was overwhelming. It was also exactly what she'd been missing without knowing it. Noah emerged from Mia's room and found Lily standing by the window, staring out at the city lights. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" Lily turned to face him. "About how weird it is that I hired you to pretend to be my boyfriend for one night, and now I'm here, in your apartment, after watching your daughter give a presentation about pterodactyls." Noah smiled. "Yeah, that is pretty weird. I don't regret it, though. Any of it. Neither do I." They stood there for a moment, the space between them charged with everything they hadn't said yet. Then Noah closed the distance and kissed her. It was slow, deliberate, nothing like the brief kiss on her forehead weeks ago. This was a promise, a question, an answer all at once. Lily's hands found his shoulders, and she kissed him back with all the pent-up fear and hope and relief she'd been carrying. When they pulled apart, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "I'm in love with you," he said quietly. "I probably have been since you opened your door that first night and looked at me like you weren't sure whether to trust me or call the police." Lily's breath caught. "You don't have to say it back," Noah continued. "I just needed you to know. Because I'm not good at casual, and I'm not interested in pretending this is something it's not. This is real for me. You're real for me." Lily's heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. "I'm scared." "I know. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not ready? What if—" Noah kissed her again, gentler this time. "Then we'll figure it out. Together. Same as everything else." Lily closed her eyes, letting the words sink in. She'd spent her entire adult life afraid of taking up too much space, of asking for too much, of wanting things she didn't think she deserved. But Noah wasn't asking her to be perfect. He was asking her to be present, to try, to take the risk. "I love you too," she said, the words coming out shaky but certain. "I'm terrified and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love you." Noah smiled, and it was the most genuine, unguarded expression she'd ever seen on his face. "That's all I need to hear." They spent the rest of the night on the couch, talking about everything and nothing. Noah told her about his plans to maybe, eventually, consider going back to some kind of work that didn't involve raising a 6-year-old full-time. Lily told him about her fears for the new job, her excitement, the pressure of suddenly having people's careers depending on her decisions. "You're going to be a great leader," Noah said. "You know why?" "Why?" "Because you actually care about people. Not their productivity or their output. You care about whether they feel valued." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's rare. Don't lose it." "I'll try." "Don't try. Just be yourself. That's enough." Lily wanted to believe him, and for the first time she almost did. The following Monday, Lily walked into her new office, an actual office with a door and a window and a nameplate that read, "Director of Strategic Analysis," and tried not to panic. Her team was waiting in the conference room, 5 analysts, all of them older and more experienced than her, all of them probably wondering why she'd been promoted instead of them. She took a breath, grabbed her notes, and walked in. "Morning," she said, sitting at the head of the table. "I know this is a weird situation. Most of you have been here longer than me. Some of you probably applied for this position yourselves. So I'm not going to stand here and pretend I have all the answers or that this is going to be smooth." The team exchanged glances. "But here's what I do know," Lily continued. "I'm good at identifying patterns, building models, and making sure our forecasts are based on actual data instead of gut feelings. I'm also good at listening. So if you have ideas, concerns, or if you think I'm screwing something up, tell me. I'd rather fix a problem early than find out about it when it's too late." One of the analysts, a woman named Rachel who'd been with the company for a decade, raised her hand. "What's your management style?" "Honest question?" Lily asked. "Yeah. I don't know yet. I've never managed anyone before, but I know what bad management looks like, and I know I don't want to be that." She met Rachel's eyes. "So I guess my style is going to be figuring it out as we go and hoping you'll tell me when I'm getting it wrong." Rachel smiled. "That's more honest than most managers would be." "Yeah, well, I'm too new at this to lie convincingly." The team laughed and some of the tension in the room eased. They spent the next 2 hours going over current projects, redistribution of responsibilities, and timelines for upcoming forecasts. Lily asked questions, took notes, and tried to project a confidence she didn't entirely feel. But by the end of the meeting, something had shifted. The team wasn't looking at her like an interloper anymore. They were looking at her like someone they might actually want to work for. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Over the next few months, Lily settled into her new role with the kind of determined focus she'd always applied to her work. She made mistakes, assigned the wrong person to a project, missed a deadline because she'd underestimated how long analysis would take, had to have an uncomfortable conversation with an analyst who wasn't pulling their weight. But she also learned. She got better at delegating, at trusting her team, at making decisions without second-guessing herself into paralysis. And through it all, Noah was there. Not hovering or micromanaging or offering unsolicited advice, just there. Listening when she needed to vent about a frustrating day, celebrating when her team delivered a forecast that impressed the board, reminding her that one bad decision didn't negate everything she'd accomplished. Mia became a fixture in Lily's life too. She started showing up at Lily's apartment on weekends, dragging Noah along for movie marathons and baking experiments that usually ended with flour everywhere and cookies that were slightly burnt but edible. She asked Lily for help with homework, demanded her opinion on which dinosaur was objectively the best, and announced to her entire class that her dad's girlfriend was really smart and nice and way better than Tommy's stepmom, who doesn't even like dinosaurs. She called me your girlfriend, Lily told Noah after Mia relayed this story with great enthusiasm. Is that okay? Noah asked carefully. Yeah, it's more than okay. 6 months after the gala that had started everything, Lily's team delivered a forecast that predicted a major shift in consumer behavior 3 quarters before it happened. The company adjusted their strategy accordingly, avoided a significant financial loss, and the board sent a formal commendation to Lily's office. Sandra called her in the day the commendation arrived. Sit, Sandra said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Lily sat. I'm not going to waste time with pleasantries, Sandra said. You've exceeded every expectation I had when I promoted you. Your team respects you, your forecasts are accurate, and you've managed to do all of this without turning into the kind of leader who forgets what it's like to be on the other side of the desk. Thank you, Lily said. Don't thank me yet. I'm about to make your life more complicated. Sandra leaned forward. The board wants to expand strategic analysis company-wide. That means multiple teams, multiple directors, and someone overseeing all of it. They want that person to be you. Lily's stomach dropped. What? VP of Strategic Analysis. You'd be reporting directly to the CEO. It's a significant promotion. More responsibility, more visibility, and a salary that'll make your current one look like pocket change. Lily couldn't speak. I know it's fast, Sandra continued, but you've proven you can handle it, and frankly, I can't think of anyone better suited for the role. So what do you say? Lily thought about the person she'd been a year ago. Invisible, overlooked, convinced she'd never be more than someone who did good work that disappeared into filing systems. That person would have hesitated, would have worried she wasn't ready, that she didn't deserve it, that she'd somehow screw it up. But Lily wasn't that person anymore. Yes, she said. I'll take it. Sandra smiled. Good. Don't make me regret it. That night, Lily showed up at Noah's apartment with champagne and news that felt too big to process alone. Mia answered the door, took one look at Lily's face, and yelled, Dad! Lily looks happy scared again. Noah appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over his shoulder. Happy scared? Like when she got the last promotion, but also looked like she might throw up. I don't look like I'm going to throw up, Lily protested. You kind of do, Noah said, grinning. What happened? I got offered VP. Noah's expression shifted from amusement to something softer, prouder. Lily, that's incredible. I know. I think. I'm still processing. Mia tugged on Lily's sleeve. What's a VP? It means she's going to be in charge of a lot of people, Noah explained. More than before? A lot more. Mia's eyes went wide. That's so cool. Can you fire people? Mia, Noah said. What? I'm just asking. They celebrated with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for Mia, who declared it fancy but not as good as regular juice. Noah cooked dinner while Lily helped Mia with a science project about the water cycle, and for a moment, everything felt perfectly, impossibly right. Later, after Mia had gone to bed and they were alone on the couch, Noah turned to Lily with an expression that was part pride, part something she couldn't quite identify. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You know that, right? You've mentioned it." "I'm serious. A year ago, you were convinced you'd never get out from under Marcus's shadow. Now you're about to be a VP. That's not luck. That's you refusing to stay invisible." Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yeah, you could have. It would have just taken longer." He kissed the top of her head. "But I'm glad I got to be there for it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the weight of the day settling around them. Then Lily said, "I want to move in with you." Noah went very still. "What?" "I want to move in. With you and Mia. If you want that." Noah pulled back to look at her. "Are you sure? That's a big step. And Mia, she's a lot. Her schedule is insane. She has opinions about everything, and she still sometimes has nightmares about her mom. It's not going to be easy." "I know. But I want to be here. Not just for the good parts. For all of it." Lily met his eyes. "I love you. And I love Mia, and I'm tired of pretending this is temporary when it doesn't feel temporary at all." Noah's expression cracked into something vulnerable and hopeful. "You really want this? More than I've wanted anything in a long time." He kissed her then, slow and deep, and when they pulled apart, he was smiling in a way that made Lily's chest ache. "Okay," he said, "let's do it, but you're telling Mia, because she's going to have approximately 8 million questions and I'm not equipped to handle them alone." Lily laughed. "Deal." They told Mia the next morning over breakfast. She processed the news with her characteristic blend of enthusiasm and brutal honesty. "So you're going to live here all the time?" Mia asked. "Yeah," Lily said, "if that's okay with you." "Will you still help me with homework?" "Of course." "And you won't make me eat vegetables I don't like?" "I'll try to make vegetables you do like." Mia considered this. "Okay, you can stay, but you have to put your books on the empty shelf because Dad says we can't just pile them on the floor." "I can do that." "And you have to come to my next presentation because the other kids' parents are boring and you actually ask good questions." "I'll be there." Mia nodded, satisfied. Then she looked at Noah. "Does this mean Lily's my mom now?" The question hung in the air, heavy, with implication. Noah's face went pale. "Mia, I'm just asking," Mia said. "Because Sarah at school has a stepmom, and she calls her mom sometimes, but not always, and I don't know what the rules are." Lily's throat tightened. "I'm not trying to replace your mom, Mia. No one could do that. But if you want me to be part of your family, I'd really like that." Mia thought about this with the seriousness of a child weighing something important. "Can I just call you Lily?" "Absolutely." "Okay, but you're still family." "Deal." Mia went back to her cereal like they'd just discussed the weather, but Noah reached under the table and squeezed Lily's hand so hard it almost hurt. Lily moved in 3 weeks later. It was chaotic and imperfect, boxes everywhere, arguments about where furniture should go, Mia's initial excitement wearing off when she realized Lily's books were taking up space she'd mentally allocated for her rock collection. But slowly, the apartment stopped being Noah's space and became theirs. Lily learned Mia's routines, her quirks, the specific way she liked her sandwiches cut, and the precise tone of voice that meant a meltdown was imminent. She learned how to navigate Noah's occasional bouts of overprotective anxiety, his tendency to shoulder everything himself rather than ask for help. And they learned her. Her need for quiet in the mornings, her habit of stress cleaning when work got overwhelming, the way she shut down when she felt like she was failing. It wasn't perfect. There were hard days. Days when Mia cried for her mom and Lily didn't know how to help. Days when Lily worked late and came home to find Noah stressed and exhausted from single parenting all day. Days when they fought about stupid things because they were tired and overwhelmed and still figuring out how to be a family. But there were also good days. Days when Mia's laughter filled the apartment. Days when Noah looked at Lily like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking. Days when Lily woke up surrounded by people who loved her and realized she'd finally stopped waiting for permission to be happy. A year after the gala, Lily stood in front of the bathroom mirror getting ready for another company event, this time as a VP with her own team and her own seat at the leadership table. Noah appeared behind her, already dressed, Mia trailing after him in a dress she'd picked out herself. "You look beautiful," Noah said. I look nervous. You always look nervous before these things. And then you walk in and remind everyone why you're in charge. Lily turned to face him. What if... No what ifs. You've done this 100 times. You'll do it again tonight. He kissed her forehead. And then we'll come home, and Mia will demand a full report on whether there was good dessert, and everything will be fine. The dessert last time was terrible, Mia said. Those tiny cakes that taste like air. Petit four, Lily said. Petty fours, which is a good name because they're petty to people who want real cake. Noah laughed. Come on, let's get going before Lily spirals. They drove to the event together, Mia chattering in the back seat about an upcoming field trip to the Natural History Museum. When they pulled up to the venue, Lily felt the familiar flutter of anxiety in her chest. But this time, it was different, because she wasn't alone. Noah took her hand as they walked inside, Mia between them, and Lily realized that this, all of it, was what she'd been searching for without knowing it. Not just success or recognition or a title that proved she mattered. She'd been searching for people who saw her, really saw her, and didn't ask her to be smaller to make space for them. The event passed in a blur of conversations and handshakes and presentations. Lily gave a speech about the strategic direction of the company, fielded questions from board members, and managed to not spill anything on herself. When it was over, they went home. Mia demanded the full dessert report, which was better this time, though still not as good as the cookies from the bakery near their apartment. Noah made tea while Lily changed out of her dress and into sweatpants that Mia had declared way more comfortable than fancy clothes. And as they sat together on the couch, Mia falling asleep against Noah's shoulder, Lily thought about the person she'd been when this all started. That woman had been so afraid of being seen that she'd made herself invisible. She'd let people like Marcus convince her she wasn't good enough, smart enough, important enough. But the truth, the thing Lily had finally learned, was that worth wasn't something other people gave you. It was something you claimed for yourself. It was showing up, doing the work, and refusing to apologize for taking up space. It was understanding that being scared didn't mean you weren't ready. It just meant you cared enough to try. And sometimes the thing you needed most wasn't permission from the world. It was permission from yourself to finally stop hiding. Noah caught her looking at him and smiled. What are you thinking about? Just how different everything is now. Good different? The best different. Lily leaned against him, careful not to disturb Mia. Thank you for showing up that night, for seeing me when I didn't think anyone was looking. You don't need to keep thanking me, Noah said softly, but you're welcome, for the last time. Lily smiled. I love you. I love you too. They sat there in the quiet apartment, surrounded by the life they'd built together, messy and imperfect and more real than anything Lily had ever experienced. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of it. She was ready. Because the woman who'd hired an escort to survive a corporate gala wasn't the same woman sitting here now. That woman had been running from herself, trying to prove something to people who didn't matter. This woman, the one who led teams and loved fiercely and showed up for a 6-year-old's dinosaur presentations, she wasn't running anymore. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.